Ladies and gentlemen, guys and dolls, welcome to another episode of Inside the Mug. We just chopped out from Inside the Mug. Man, there's a lot to go over. I feel like I haven't talked to you guys in forever, which you were probably thinking, oh my gosh, thank God this guy's not blabbing off for a half hour about nothing. But no, I'm going to talk about myself some more for another half hour? No. Well, first, the reason why I haven't put out an episode in a while is it fell right in the middle of a move. This is supposed to be the recap episode for The Jungle Bird. It seems like forever for me, especially because I wrote The Jungle Bird way before I moved last month. Like I did it as soon as I got done with the episode before that. So a little behind the scenes, a little inside the mug is usually it takes me. I post the show on the 20th of the month, somewhere 19th to the 22nd. I usually take a week off from Pod Tiki to kind of work on other stuff or make a drink that I actually choose instead of what I'm doing for the episode, and just catch up on other stuff in life without stressing over a deadline that's really not that stressful because I made it up for myself. So I could change it if I want to, but I'm not. I want to stay consistent. So and then I start, the first week of the month, maybe the second week of the month. If I'm procrastinating, I usually pick what the drink's going to be for that month, and then I will start writing it, usually coming up with a story, and then week two, second week of the month, around between the 10th and the 15th or so, I actually sit down, start writing it, and then record it, and then post it. And of course, the cat's going to start scratching as soon as I start recording. But last month, because I knew I was moving, I recorded The Jungle Bird ahead of time, and so it seems for me even longer since I've done an episode. This was supposed to be the recap episode for The Jungle Bird. It's a good drink, just a short recap. It's I really kind of dig the history of it. I think that's the first time we've actually covered a drink from that part of the world. We'll be going back there again someday for the Singapore Sling. I love that it's that Southeast Asia kind of area. It's it is also a tropics and most of the people that worked for Don and Vic or anywhere throughout that early tiki, the original tiki, like they came from there. You have your Dick Santiago's and your Hank Riddles and all the guys that hail from those early days. So it's and the drink, of course, I love it because it has some Italian liqueur in there. So I get to talk about Gaspare Campari again. And it's a pretty drink. It's a drink that everybody around town should know how to make. If you have Jamaican rum or any kind of dark rum, and everybody's got Campari. And usually everybody's got pineapple juice or some kind of lime juice behind the bar. Even if you're not a craft cocktail bar or a tropical bar, you have those ingredients and you can throw together a drink. If someone walks in and asks for a tiki drink, they're probably going to get a Jungle Bird. That's why it really impresses me when someone does make something up. Although I was way more impressed before I started learning about all these drinks. Now I can kind of, what do you call that? Devolve it in my head and kind of figure out what it is. But it's a great drink. It's a great garnish. It's got a cool story. I urge you guys to go back and we're getting back to the history a little bit with that one. It's been a weird kind of end of summer. We've been doing some episodes that are kind of veering from our main narrative, which is all the people and the places of that early tiki and Caribbean and Prohibition and all that stuff. We're going to get back to that. With the last episode was a little dive back into that hotels and bartending. And this episode coming up, we're going to dive right back into the OG stuff. So we're going to get right back into our timeline. So don't you worry about that. But another reason why this episode took so long to come out was, of course, if you follow me at all or if you follow music or the tropics at all, you obviously know about the passing of Jimmy Buffett. James William Buffett. If you listen to the show, you know that I have a very special relationship with his music and his literature and his style in general. Growing up in Florida, especially during my formative years, You know, and I say that a lot. I don't want to ever discredit the fact that I do love where I was born in New York, and there's always going to be a part of my early childhood in my family that, that whole New York Italian thing is always going to be a part of me. But Florida is where I feel more home. It's where I moved when I was 13 years old. It's where I had my first car, my first girlfriend, my first job, and all that kind of stuff. It's where my parents still live in the house I grew up in. So it's home. And so that whole Jimmy Buffett lifestyle was just all around all the time. Like, I didn't have to go to on a vacation to find it. I could literally walk in the backyard and have palm trees and a margarita. Poolside stuff. You're 30 minutes from the beach. You know, you can hop on a weekend cruise to the Bahamas or the Caribbean in quick. Most people, if you didn't have a boat, then you had friends that had boats. And I'm not even talking about a socio-economic thing. Like, it doesn't matter if you lived in a trailer park and had a John boat, or if you lived in Windermere and had, or out in Claremont and had it's that whole, it's just, you were always by the water. You were always in that kind of lazy Caribbean tropical kind of atmosphere. And that was the zeitgeist for things that formed not only what I do specifically here with the drinks and the palm trees and the Hawaiian shirts and all that, but it also formed the web that I grew off of. It was the lattice that me as a vine grew around. It guided me. It also provided stability. It also left enough open holes for me to make my own decisions and go my own ways. It was the framework, it was the trilogy, the base spirit for the cocktail that is Tony Mafitano. So, it took me a while to put something out. I put a little thing out on the website, on the podcast feed, something I wrote. It took me about a week to write it, to gather my thoughts, really figure out what I wanted to say and how I wanted to say it, because there's just so much. How do you put I've been listening to Jimmy Buffett and reading his books since I was a teenager, and his books taught me his books really influenced my literary voice when I write. The whole tongue-in-cheek, sarcastic kind of good guy always wins in the end, but you kind of do it with a wink and a nod. Like, that is like, I get that straight from him, and it's just really and then so that was the first week processing, and then it's been about another week or so now, almost 2 weeks now, and before I'm recording this, and I honestly think it was up until a couple of days ago that it really, like, the emotion of it kicked in. I have never really felt upset about a celebrity death before, but this feels like this is somebody that I knew. This feels like somebody that came from where I came from, that knows where I came from. For all the jokes about Florida and all that, never have I been somewhere so kind and loving to all kinds of people, such a diversity. It taught me how to not be afraid of other things, not just other people, but other things. And living in a place of extremes, you can make fun of it, but extreme heat, extreme people, extreme situations, it kind of gave me this baseline of where it really takes a lot to bother me about life stuff now, because I'm kind of numb to the extremes that happen, or maybe that's a bad thing. Maybe the abnormal, the misadventure has become my norm, which is why I have I have to go to extremes all the time in my personality. But to even feel, I gotta feel something. But yeah, it really took a long time for it to set in, and I think because I was a little embarrassed about how much it hit me, for being over somebody that you don't know. But I woke up that morning when I found out, and I put on my vinyl copy of A1A, and just kind of jammed for a little bit, and then went on with my life, and went out into the world that day, and realized that the world was going on with their lives as well. And at first, I was like, don't you guys know Jimmy Buffett died? I was like, I was thinking that in my head. I just want to walk the people on the street going into the coffee shop or the cigar shop or the driving down 8th Avenue and just be like, I wanted to shake him and be like, what are you doing living your life regular? Don't you know Buffett is dead? But then a certain calmness kind of lapped over me like a rolling tide. That everything does kind of move on like normal. I'm never going to get to meet him in person now. He's never going to cut one of my songs, and I'm never going to get to see him live again. But I have two very special experiences around seeing him live. I have multitudes that I've learned from him from afar. And I have all the memories that I share with people who are also around because of either a relationship we have for both being fans, or the first time I took my wife to meet my folks, it was for a Buffett concert back home. Like all these things that surround that, and it was, I get my adventurous spirit from my grandpa who died when I was young, and Buffett was kind of like that surrogate kind of personality, even though we didn't know each other personally. And I think he was probably that to a lot of people for a lot of different reasons, which is what makes it difficult. I remember when Robin Williams passed away. That one made me kind of like, oh man, that sucks. Robin Williams, I remember watching him when I was a kid. And you have a tie to someone like that meant something to your, that was a part of your world. But for me, Jimmy Buffett was almost like a part of like a family. Like he was in my home, he was in my earbuds, he was in my car when I drove to like all those times to the beach, or to go visit my daughter for driving 8 hours in the car by myself. I'd listen to Buffett. When I learned how to play guitar, I learned Buffett songs. My dad would put on songs by heart, and and I think in high school, I was probably the only kid who had Jimmy Buffett on rotation in his car in his CD sleeve when everybody else was bumping, alternative or hip hop and all that stuff, and I bumped that too. But yeah, sneak a little Buffett in there, and honestly, not only did that happen, but nobody cared. Nobody looked at me like I was weird because yeah, Jimmy Buffett is Florida, like it. And there's just it's just such a inextricably attached to who I am, and not only like my upbringing and where I'm from, but then the things I enjoy doing, like the writing and the music and the traveling. Forget about the fact that besides his creative work, he was a pilot. He was a boat captain, a sailor. He knew how to navigate by the stars, like that's a dying art. He was sort of which gave him a sort of astronomy kind of thing going on too. He cut his teeth in New Orleans, and he was a little bit of a Francophile, so he had that Parisian kind of thing going on too. He was well known for the Caribbean, but also did the Polynesian stuff. He was good friends with Martin Denny and all those guys. Everybody in the music industry knew him. Paul McCartney wrote a nice eulogy for him on social media the morning after, and it's just Bob Dylan called him one of his favorite songwriters. It's just the for people who, and I gave up a long time ago trying to defend him. Everybody, whatever. If you don't get it, you don't get it. But I urge you to kind of, if you think that you're on the periphery and only know Margaritaville and Cheeseburger and Paradise, then I urge you to go through his albums and listen to, just pick out go to Spotify or iHeartRadio and just put on the Jimmy Buffett station or a playlist and just listen to some of the other tracks, some of the more wistful and thoughtful, pensive tracks, or just the clever lyrics. Even when he's making a fun song, it's clever, and you kind of have to some of the stuff sounds like it might like it doesn't make any sense at first. It's just babble or it's just funny things to say, but it's actually means something if you listen to the rhymes. They're one of the most special lines for me was from the song La Vie Dansante. La Vie Dansante means the dancing life, and he sings, that's why we wander and follow La Vie Dansante. And I definitely felt like I've always tried to dance through life, for better or for worse. Learned maybe first the inspiration from my grandpa, and then my folks moving me down the East Coast when I was 13 years old, and getting the travel bug, and my parents always kind of teaching me how to not take myself too seriously and do what makes me happy in life, and then finally getting to kind of bop around the Caribbean a little bit and around the coast of Florida and out to other places, and trying to find the silver lining whatever I'm doing, even if it's something I'm not used to. Hell, I've been spending time up north more since I met my wife from Minnesota, so there's just all these experiences in life that you can either drag yourself through, or you can dance around or dance over. And when you have an obstacle, just dance around it. And when there's no obstacles, just moonwalk across that bitch like you own it. So to think of, obviously the world lost a creative talent that we're not going to get any more art from, but we sort of will, by the people that he inspires, by the things that he put in the world that are able to be interpreted in so many ways, whether it's a book or a children's book or a song lyric that might mean something to somebody else or to you at a different time in your life. Such a body of work that you can go back to it at any time and find what you need to find. His body of work is very much like a Bible for the escapist Caribbean lifestyle. You go back to it and find the meaning, whatever you need. And it truly is like a religion, if you've ever been to one of his shows. Although as a man whose birthday was on Christmas Day and grew up Catholic and kind of gave it up, he probably wouldn't like that analogy. But if they're not sure what his belief system was, but he did know how to navigate by the stars, so I'm sure he had no trouble finding his way up to heaven. So those of us who still have that work to inspire us, we didn't really lose anything as long as we keep living that La Vie Dansante. And I say in the article that I wrote in the podcast that I put out that the world may have lost a man, but it is never going to lose Jimmy Buffett. So, let's raise a glass for my favorite rum. And toast to the man from Margaritaville, the paragon of paradise. Rest in peace, Buffett. And to borrow a line from one of his recent albums, I guess we will see you on the flip side. Alright, well, sorry if that was kind of a downer. I had to get that off my chest. I promise we're getting back to real tiki in this next episode. I just got back from the liquor store today and bought the stuff that I need for the next drink. We're going to cruise into the fall with something OG from off the old original Down the Beachcomber menu. So I want to thank all you guys. Please subscribe. I hate when people beg for that, but if you subscribe, we can do some live content. If you're interested in supporting the show at all, whether it's the podcast, the video series, we do have a Patreon. Just search Pod Tiki on Patreon. It's Pod Tiki Podcast on Patreon. It's only $3 a month to support the show if you feel like you want to do that. The more you support me, the better I can make my production, and maybe it'll actually be fun to watch and listen to. New stuff coming out. Don't forget to check out the music. Summer Sessions Volume 1 is still up and running at podtiki.com. Really proud of that. Thanks for everybody who gave some kind words about it, but I want to spread the love some more. So yeah, please spread the love about that. And yeah, just follow the podcast, which is the main thing. The main Pod Tiki is the podcast all across iHeartRadio, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher Radio, all the big ones. And always at podtiki.com. All the new stuff is on there. We got a recipe index on there if you want to check out all the drinks that we have listed. We can find that on there. You can go back to the archive section and find all the past episodes on the podcast, or just scroll down on Spotify or and iHeart and all that stuff. Yeah, you can reach out through social media. That's the best way to get a hold of me. I'm usually on Facebook and Instagram the most. So yes, comments are always welcome. If you want to comment on the podcast, I need to get better about checking the Apple iTunes one. I get comments when they come through on the website, but not so much. I don't get comments every time someone. I don't get an email every time someone comments on the Apple podcast. So I got to go in there and do better about checking that out. Social media is going to be Pod Tiki across the board. Instagram is pod_tiki. If you want to follow my personal page, it's rum_poet. Please go on and listen to the Buffett eulogy that I put on there. That would mean a lot to me and all his fans. And they'll be back on a regular schedule of Pod Tikis coming out around the 20th of the month, and hopefully peppering in some more stuff like the videos, and still trying to figure out a bit of content to put up for the Patreon. I'm assuming people don't want more content of me just babbling on about myself and Tiki. So maybe we could do like a separate something Tiki and tropical adjacent. Maybe we focus on the Patreon we focus on a topic that's like Tiki adjacent, like horror Tiki or post mod, or maybe just Caribbean stuff. I don't know. You guys that are on the Patreon, why don't you go ahead and shoot me a suggestion, and maybe I'll pick it from what you guys want to do. So I believe that's all the plugs. Oh, make sure if you're going to order any of your sweet Surfside Sips glass strawware, it doesn't always have to be Tiki stuff. If you're not into Tiki and you want to get something that just your plain straws that you can carry to the restaurant with you or carry on vacation with you, they have sets with different sizes and different shapes and with a little bent thing on top. They have cases now that you can carry them in, cleaning stuff. So they got all kinds of stuff at surfsidesips.com. And if you are a Buffett fan, maybe he does a lot of custom work. Maybe he'll do you a little margarita straw. So actually, that's not a bad idea, because there's nothing worse than getting a drink on the rocks and then you get hit in the teeth with the freaking the ice all the time. Or maybe you want a frozen drink, but you don't want that. You can't put like a giant straw into a frozen margarita glass, like a coupe glass. It'll stick out. So you can actually have him make you little like coupe glass straws. That'll be that's like little margarita straws. That'd be fun. But if you put in Pod Tiki at checkout, all caps, all one word, PODTIKI, that'll get you 20% off, and I'll get a little kickback and let him know that that you're going through me, and that is always nice for everybody involved, and it's nice when we all win. All right, so until next time, I'm gonna try to squeeze you guys back into the mug here. Let me. Oh.